Hello everyone, welcome back to Analogue, a hate story. I'm your host, DeoGenZ, and we are going to continue on through this story by accessing more of the log documents with Block 9. Actually, wouldn't it make more sense if we went to Block 6 first? Go in numerical order, smallest to largest. Dear Smith, from Mute. Smith Kyung Sam, I don't know why you insist on putting this all in writing when we could just have a perfectly good conversation. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy to do it, whatever you want. You're the man. I just think it's a little weird. I don't really get it. Anyway, as to your question, you're spot on about the pale bride being the focus of attention in the royal family. Not for the reasons you wanted, though. I don't know where you heard those rumors, but they are so not true. That girl, a troublemaker? No way. I don't see it. It's not even convincing as a rumor. That girl is the most polite, most obedient person I've ever seen in my entire life. The idea of her fighting with her husband is completely unimaginable. In over a month, I've never so much as heard her raise her voice in disagreement. She's quiet, courteous, and does everything she's told, even without the slightest hesitation. I'm sorry, but there's just no way you could possibly exploit any drama here. This is as undramatic a situation as it gets, especially not compared to what the situation with your cousin and that courtesan. Don't get me wrong. She bugs the hell out of me. The girl is just too perfect. She's young, she's beautiful, she's demure to the point where I don't even think she has a personality of her own. But she also gets along perfectly with the queen. Of course she commands all the attention of the emperor. Can you blame him? I'm sorry, but there's no way he's ever going to be anything but extremely grateful to the Kim family for giving her over. Oh, written by Mute. Whoops, I'm sorry. I don't really know how that got in there. Yeah, don't pay any attention to that. Sorry, none of that really matters. I'll just go ahead and remove that. Really, I'm not normally this much of a klutz, I swear. A mysterious message by a Mute. I suppose Mute's points will have to stay mute for now. We'll go on to Block 9. Wow, she actually removed the whole block. She really did want us to forget about it. The new heir, Kim Yong-suk. When he died this year, my father was an absolute nobody. I don't say this to disrespect his honor. It's the complete opposite. He knew it. And that was a far worse fate than he ever deserved. It wasn't until I was maybe 16 that I even realized we were supposed to be from a noble family. Certainly we never had much of means. Father was a minor official in the interior decks, and spent his last days dealing with minor peasant disputes. Of all things, peasant disputes. With the poverty we lived in, no wonder it never really sank in that we were of noble blood. Not until I met the main family for the first time. They were proud, despite the fact that I now realize that they too were suffering from our same lack of royal favor. But I could tell the difference. They hadn't given up. Their son was still alive at the time, and even though he was a child half my age, I couldn't believe his confidence. It put us to shame. Absolutely put us to shame. But their son died later that year, and my father died just a few months ago. I didn't know what we were going to do, but mother managed to convince sister's husband to adopt me into the main Kim family. I don't think it took much. So now I'm heir, just like that. Kim Jong-soo's adopted son. Not that I have the time or position to be proud, but having spoken sincerely with my new father, I think we're on the same page. I am going to study furiously, and I'm going to become a scholar official. What I didn't tell him was my ambition. I won't settle for any peasant jobs. I'll be better than that. I'm not going to stop until I manage to fulfill my father's dream, High Magistrate. I won't settle. I will not settle. I think Jung-soo expects me to disappoint him, but I damn well will not. If I'm heir of the Kim family, I'm not going to let him down. He wants prosperity, I'll give it to him. More importantly, I'm never going to let any other Kim son feel like his family doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Never again. I swear on my ancestors, never again. Well, I suppose I can give you more about Young-suk. I don't know. I don't think you really find him very interesting, but here, you can see for yourself. The New Happiness. Young-suk's wife. Dearest mother, finally I believe Young-suk has grown comfortable with me. All it took was some time for me to earn his trust. Learning how to read by watching over my husband's shoulder isn't how I envisioned spending my first year of marriage. I can't complain about anything that makes me spend so much time with him, though. We've talked, and decided we won't try for a son right away. Right now, he's just not ready for it. That aside, things are good. If this is what married life is like, I think I can be happy with this. We're getting along well, and I like him. Perhaps it's not quite what I was led to expect, but it's still good. Domestic bliss indeed. Last week, Young-suk was reading over some papers for a dispute that Magistrate Park was deciding on. You wouldn't understand the details, but it was essentially an argument between a farmer and his lord over a sum of money after a particularly poor harvest. I think I will tell the magistrate that the farmer is right. His claim is fair, he told me. Might I take a look? I asked. Bemused, he handed the papers to me. It took a good while of studying, just to be sure after all. I wouldn't want to contradict my husband if he was right. But farmer's numbers didn't seem to add up. I pointed this out to him. He not only listened patiently, but had me explain. Then you believe the farmer is trying to cheat his lord? He asked. I did. That's what I will report then. The next day he told me that the magistrate agreed, and ever since then, he has started to rely on my opinion when it comes to anything involving math. To be totally honest with you, I don't really know what she's talking about here, at all. The math thing wasn't really considered very odd at the time. That's women's work, it's just natural. Maybe it's a little weird that she's helping with external matters, but, well, it's not that weird. That part about learning to read isn't that amazing either. It might have been officially frowned upon, but learning to read by looking over a brother or husband's shoulder was really, really common. She's making a big deal out of nothing. Well, I guess that's a 15-year-old woman for you. 15? Well, that's a little strange. Okay, add that to the memory banks. This Young-suk has a extremely young wife. How old is he? The new friendship. Kim Young-suk. While it's true that I might be, as my wife suggests, alarmingly serious, it's hard to argue with enjoying a nice meal out if it means cultivating Magistrate Park's trust even more. Just having the invitation alone's a pretty good sign. I assumed we would be going to his house after finishing with the day's affairs, but instead, he led the other way. Oh, you do not want to visit there? My son has a newborn child who is very, very unconducive to entertaining guests, I am afraid. He said with a laugh, surely you'll understand. Instead, we headed to the plaza. Outside of the occasional New Year's festivals, when I was a child, I had never actually been there before. I never had much of an eye for details at the time, so I was surprised to see now just how richly decorated everything was. for what was essentially a giant market. Beautiful floral arrangements adorned every stall, wall, and partition, and rather than a commotion of a crowd, all I could hear was the sound of peaceful music. It was still, of course, a market. There were no merchants loudly hawking wares, and some of the prices on the signs I saw would make the emperor blush. In that atmosphere, we ate together at a public house that defied my expectations. The food was both plentiful and far better than anything I'd had in either of my houses. If this sounds indulgent, it absolutely is, and I definitely don't plan on telling anyone the details like this, except us. The only thing I plan to report from this evening is what the magistrate confided in me, that when he was moved from his position, he'd like to recommend me to fill his place. I'd be young for the position, but it would be a great stepping stone to the one I am dreaming of. I remained calm, since I'm good at that, but it's the best news I've heard in my life. That plaza sounds really, really interesting, doesn't it? I mean, I wouldn't really know personally, but as I understand it, it was the big place for celebrating festivals, and really surprising to see. You'd leave one of the few tiny modern stark white corridors that lead to it, then suddenly there was this huge open space filled with all sorts of colourful signs and vendors. I think proper gentlemen were supposed to be more modest though, so they wouldn't really want to associate with that sort of thing too openly. Yes, modern gentlemen don't like colours, apparently. The new magistrate, Young Suk's wife. Dearest mother, if you haven't already heard the good news, my husband has been appointed by the emperor to the position of magistrate. He's taken over the office from Magistrate Park starting today, which is just tremendous for a man of his age. I have no doubt that he was perfectly humble when he got the news, since he certainly has been a while talking about it in front of father-in-law in private, though it's another story. Earlier, the family held a small feast to celebrate the news, and he had the same attitude then, too. But afterwards, when everyone else had left or gone to bed, we stayed up to sit together drinking wine, and it was a whole lot more somber. He wasn't modest, but he wasn't boastful either. He was just outright insecure. He might not say it in front of you, but you know what? He said to me as I poured him more wine, he takes all the credit for my promotion. According to him, it's all because of the Emperor's perfect new bride, which is, of course, all because of him. I said quietly, I don't want to take credit for her. I wasn't the one who got her to shut up. That was all him. I don't like discussing it, and please, Mother, don't ever ask me why. Doesn't matter, he said. That's not why I got promoted. I got promoted because High Magistrate Park and I managed to make Smith look so bad he had to get shuffled off. It's exposing the whoring and thuggery that did it. Not the damn pale bride, he said with annoyance. Well, that's how he is. You know he'll never give you credit for anything, I said. He replied, I know. I just wish he'd acknowledge it. I just don't know how he can be so stupid as to not be proud of me, you know? I know, I said. But let's not focus on that right now. I think we should focus on the good right now. How about we toast to your success instead? Here's to the new Magistrate Kim. I raised my glass and drank. He betrayed the faintest of smiles, but he didn't share my toast, and instead put down his glass. For a moment, I was worried, but then he used that hand to grab my chin and instead, for the first time ever, kissed me, on the mouth. Far sweeter than wine, he said to me. I wasn't sure if he meant the kiss or the success, but I agreed either way. Well, as you see soon enough, it all seems to come back to the pale bride. I don't think Kim Jong-soo ever thought very much of his adopted son, Or at least neither he nor his wife thought so. You want to know what I think, though? I think they're both really dumb. I mean, it's not like she ever did anything. It's not her fault. She just happened to be there and was married as a political gesture. What kind of person projects their insecurities onto someone who only ever just got pushed around? I'm sorry. I guess I'm getting a little bit off track here. That's not really helpful, is it? Well, anyway, getting back on track here. So that is a bit about Young Suk and how he has risen to power. Well, I think that it is a good place to leave off, and in the next episode we will access some more of these blocks and find out what their text has to offer. See if we can investigate a little bit more about this mysterious pale bride. See you all in the next episode.